Morning, this is Brian. Today is Tuesday, January 31st, 2023. I'm up here near Pyles Peak in Mission Trails Regional Park. And it is time for a spotlight on shrubs video. Being that we run the gamut between coastal sage scrub and chaparral high up on these ridges, we had a lot of shrub diversity here. So today's spotlight is on one of these awesome species of shrubs that we find up here, and this one is called woolly Ceanothus, aka Ramona Lilac. And this is it here. This is Ceanothus tomentosus. This is a small to sometimes quite large evergreen shrub, sometimes slightly drought deciduous in very dry years. And it is a member of the Buckthorn family, the Rhamnaceae. So I just happened to catch it when it is pretty well into its bloom. Not full bloom yet, but definitely you'll see some blue shaded slopes here in the chaparral of Mission Trails Regional Park, and a lot of the lower canyon slopes and foothills, as this is a generally low elevation shrub, mostly below 4,000 feet in elevation. So we have a shrub here with some relatively small leaves, indicative of a lot of the chaparral shrubs here. And they're kind of round, sometimes point-tipped. And they have these little teeth along the edge that are sticky tipped, and that's one of the relatively decent identifying factors of Ceanothus tomentosus. Now, Ceanothus tomentosus does have some closely related shrubs that are quite similar, and one shrub I spotlighted last March was the hairy Ceanothus, which is Ceanothus oleganthus, variety oleganthus. Is a very similar shrub, very similar. The leaves are almost identical looking. The shrubs are very similar looking in profile. Their flower colors are pretty much basically the same. The main difference is you'll find Ceanothus oleganthus at higher elevations. The leaves on Ceanothus oleganthus are very similarly shaped, but they're generally not sticky tipped. So you look at the leaves here. If you touch the edge of the leaves with your finger, for the most part, you'll feel a little bit of a sticky tip, a little bit of glandular action going on here. And the leaves are often three-veined at the base, and they do have some pinnate venation higher up, and they have three main veins at the base of the leaves. It's kind of hard to see on camera. But I'm gonna shoot a couple of I'm gonna shoot a few close-up pictures, because sometimes it's better when it's a still picture. So I'm gonna shoot a few pictures of the leaves so you can get a better idea of what they look like. So again, if you touch the edge of the leaves will be kind of sticky tipped. So this is one of the earlier species of Ceanothus to bloom. We're in late January, and this shrub is at least halfway into its bloom. So late January and February are really good times to see Ceanothus tomentosus in bloom. You see here. So you get these small kind of panicle-like clusters of beautiful purplish blue, sometimes a little bit lighter colored, sometimes a little bit darker colored. You can see here, absolutely stunning, beautiful flowers that will eventually give way to these three-chambered seed capsules, which are not present right now because it's way too early. That'll dry up and burst open and sprinkle the seeds all over the landscape, waiting for the next fire to come through and burn the landscape, opening up the soil for more seedlings to germinate. So there you go. These small, sometimes larger clusters in shadier canyons. Beautiful purplish blue flowers that are absolutely a hiker's delight this time of year. Most other climates here in North America, everything is gray except for the conifers. And even some of them, like the larches and stuff like that, are deciduous too. But a lot of other places, everything's just dead and dormant right now. But this is our rainy season, and this is basically our spring wake-up for a lot of our plants here. So, Ceanothus tomentosus, it's pretty common here in Southern California. It's, again, mostly a lower elevation foothills chaparral shrub, which is found sometimes close to the coast and into the foothills of the mountains. But again, it's usually a lower elevation than its really similar cousin, the hairy Ceanothus, Ceanothus oleganthus, variety oleganthus. And this is what the flower buds look like right here. So you can see some of the flower buds. These little clusters of buds right here. So what I want to do is I'm going to take a few close-up pictures of the flowers and the buds so you get a good idea of what they look like more up close. Typically what we're looking at is somewhat of an upright shrub, pretty upright, kind of round and crowned as you see here. And then you get these grayish-brown twigs, these kind of grayish-brown twigs, and as the trunks get a little bit larger, become often kind of gray, kind of splotchy sometimes with the presence of lichens. Sometimes these shrubs can be single-trunked occasionally, but most of the time they'll have at least a few stems. But yeah, some of these shrubs can occasionally be way taller than your head. This one here is probably about 6.5 feet tall. Very typical in this area here in Mission Trails. And it is obviously a denizen of the chaparral environments here. So as I'm hiking down Pyles Peak Trail, I'm going to point out a few more specimens along the way. Keep a lookout on the screen for the range of this plant, the more comprehensive range of this plant, but it is quite common here in Mission Trails, and some of the slopes here turn a kind of a bluish haze because of this plant. Here's one right here that is really in pretty glorious bloom. Yeah, beautiful shrub here. And it's very much a nectar plant. As you can see, these European honeybees right here, the Apis mellifera, really love these flowers. And if you sniff them kind of closely, you do get a little bit of that slight Ceanothus perfume. Now, it's not an extremely strong fragrance, but I guess on warm days it can be sometimes noticeable. Ceanothus flowers do have a certain aroma, fragrance. It's not extremely prevalent, but it is noticeable sometimes in full bloom. And here we are on this more of a south-facing slope. Here, mixed in with Mission Manzanita, black sage, laurel sumac, and the occasional Eastwood Manzanita, and chaparral yucca. But when you get these on north-facing slopes is when, obviously, where there's more moisture retention in the soil, where these plants can get quite a bit larger. These shrubs can get quite large, actually, and the leaves are much bigger in the shade, the shadier north-facing slopes. But there you have it. Ramona Lilac, aka woolly Ceanothus, Ceanothus tomentosus. Live from here, Mission Trails Regional Park. I hope you enjoyed this spotlight video, and I hope it gave you a good idea of how to identify it when you find it in the field. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on my next spotlight.